And what's up, everybody, and welcome to Talking Ball, y'all. That is Lance Lacoste, Jason Due, and I am Cass Hargis. We appreciate you hopping on here tonight. Talk some LHSAA high school football round two. We're already into round three of the playoffs. Playoffs seem to be flying by as fast as the regular season, but we talked last Tuesday previewing this round like it kind of felt like the playoffs really started this week, and Friday night definitely lived up to the billing.
Yeah, I was in Mobile in a hotel room watching it. I mean, it was like there was too many good games going on at once. I kept flipping back and forth. I mean, we'll get into more details, but it definitely lived up to the hype. It was a heck of a Friday night.
I'd say we've talked a few times about heavy upset weekends. It's easily the biggest upset weekend. It was some phenomenal football being played, top of the state to the bottom of the state, east west. Just some fantastic games, and I can't wait to dig in.
No, it was definitely one of the better nights of the season when you even counting in the regular season. But let's do it. Let's dig right into it. We'll start in the Division I non-select bracket where, yes, we're well aware that there was a 26 seed that won, but we'll start with Ouachita Parish going down to Destrehan. Ouachita, the 14 seed, Destrehan, the 3 seed. Ouachita wins 21-19. We talked about this Ouachita team all year long, coming out of that District 2-5A. They were battle tested. They lost 4 in a row between week 6 and 9. They get a win in week 10. Big win to get them into round 2, and now a huge win on the road at Destrehan. These two teams played last year. Destrehan won. Ouachita travels down to Destrehan and gets them back with a huge win, 21-19 on the road.
Yeah, I think you said it battle tested. I mean, these guys, they've played some of the best competition in Louisiana, tough schedule. We've heard about the athletes they've had. Coach Mike Collins alluded to it a few episodes ago. And that's what it takes to go beat this Destrehan team. And so really impressive win. I mean, they really won the game on special teams, which I think really speaks to the just the amount of athletes. I mean, I know when I was coaching against a bunch of athletes on special teams, there was just sometimes there was no scheme that could take on the speed and just the versatility of a good special teams unit. So they did clearly a great job on special teams, some big plays there. And then they really just limited, they limited some of the big plays. I mean, Dabney and these guys, they still had pretty good nights, Jackson Fields, but they didn't have a lot of big plays, And so I think that was obviously played a huge factor to it as well.
Yeah, Jabari Mack as well. To your point, he's been a big-time player for this Destrehan offense, but it came down to they had to go for too late in the game to kind of, tie it up, and they missed. And when you look at special teams, Ouachita Parish did a great job returning that kickoff. Wydell Clark made that huge play. This team has been in every game, it feels like, all season.
Yeah.
And it seems like they just continuously fall short. Well, they seem to be having one of the best postseason runs out of anybody in the entire state. They really have to be thrilled with the way that they're looking going into next week. I think this wasn't an unforeseeable thing. We knew the talent that this Ouachita Parish team had. We knew they were big, physical. They could put up points. They really rely on the explosive play, and we saw that again in this game. And going to Destrehan and winning is never an easy task. And for them to be able to accomplish that feat, it speaks to the job that Coach Benji Lewis has done, but also looking forward, I think they have a great opportunity ahead of them.
Yeah, and look, this is a team, I think when we talked about them in week 6 or 7, to that point, they hadn't turned the ball over. They didn't turn it over again here. You get a special teams touchdown, you block a field goal. That's the recipe for not just an upset, but that's how you go on the road and beat a team like Destrehan. This was extremely impressive for Ouachita. It would not shock me if this team continues to play deep into the postseason. Up in Bossier City, a game that went into overtime, maybe one of the craziest games of the night. Parkway wins 37-31 over Hahnville. Parkway has 2 players who rush for over 100 yards in Tony Gladney and Braxton Black. The quarterback, Caleb Williams, if you look at the stat line, 13 for 30, 169 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 picks. But again, special teams turnovers plays another huge role in the game, as they have a big punt return for Parkway. They get a big interception. Hahnville had a defensive scoop and score. This game seemingly had a little bit of everything. Parkway holds Hahnville out of the end zone from the 5-yard to end the game in overtime and pick up a huge win to move on to round 3.
Yeah, I was able to watch a good bit of this one. Man, it really felt like Hornville outplayed them and somewhat deserved to win the game, but they turned it over. They didn't take care of the ball as well as they should have. At the end, Parkway, they score in overtime, but they don't convert for the extra point. And so Hornville, at that point, has a chance. They got the ball from the 10-yard line. All the pressure is really on the defense of Parkway at that point. And credit to those guys. Like, the defense came through when they really needed to. There was a drop pass that's going to be a really tough one to swallow for Hornville. It was third down. Landon Teague found a guy open in the end zone. Unfortunately, he dropped the pass in the end zone. That's going to be a tough one. But overall, on fourth down, Parkway's defense came through. I know that's a team that really relies more on their offense, but when they really needed it the most, that Parkway defense came through with some turnovers, as well as getting a big stop in overtime.
We talked about this the other night, Cass. I talked about Copenhagen, big time defensive player and returner for them. He returned a punt for a touchdown. I mean, this Parkway team can come at you a number of different ways, have a ton of athleticism on offense, and did just enough on that night to beat a really solid Hornville football team. And Hornville has been a team that maybe has gone under the radar a lot in that in their division, in their district, if you will. And when you're playing in a district with the same team, with the team as the same name as Destrehan, you can get a little bit overshadowed. But again, they've hard fought game. They went up there and tried to beat them. But again, I think Parkway's offense has just consistently proven time and time again in that 1-5A basketball district, guys. Look, you can have enough defense to get the job done, and Parkway's kind of proven that consistently throughout this year.
Yeah, I think the most impressive part of this Parkway team and this Parkway victory is that they didn't have to score 50 points to win. And that sounds crazy, but we all know what that district is and the points that they score, and they didn't have to do that. They score 37. Their defense makes some big plays for them, and that's the way you have to win in the playoffs. You've got to be able to create turnovers to get stops when needed, and they did just that, and it sets them up for, and we can get into this Tuesday, but a really, really interesting matchup in round 3 up there in North Louisiana. Down there, moving on down the Division I non-select bracket, the next game, the score may be heard around the state. It seems like every season, every playoff season, there is a team seated in the 20s that makes this run out of nowhere. And we found who it was this year. Barb, the 26 seed, goes up to West Monroe and wins 42-35. And it sets up a game that we all knew was coming and everybody was looking forward to. Barb and Neville, right? Is that the one we were talking about? Oh, it was West Monroe Neville. But that the way that Barb went up there, Jordan Griffin, look, he's one of, if not the best baseball player in the state. He's committed to LSU to play baseball. What he's done the last 2 weeks on the football field may be the most remarkable things that he does in his high school career. He scored 6 touchdowns last week. He's got 3 or 4 this week. Barb gets out to a 21-0 lead. That was going to kind of be their recipe to go up there and win. It was jump out to a big lead early. They did just that, and they kind of controlled the game from throughout the night. West Monroe scored a touchdown late to make it a 7-point game, but Barb nonetheless wins 42-35.
Hey, can y'all hear me pretty good? Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, so this game was unbelievable. So I logged into this one about early third quarter, and the main thing when I turned this game on, like immediately, I sat above my seat because this football game just looked different from any other football game I watched that night. Like the size and speed of both of these teams was unbelievable. The Barb quarterback and the Barb running back. I'm sure Jason knows the names. Give me the names, Jason.
Honestly, I gotta look it up. I know his name, but
I'm gonna tell you what. The
running back's Jordan Griffin.
What was it?
Jordan Griffin.
All right, the Barb running back might have been the fastest kid I've seen this year. He was unbelievable. They couldn't stop him. Yeah, he was unbelievable. The quarterback was unbelievable. The quarterback was all over the place, making plays. throwing it all over the place, a little erratic, but it worked out for him Friday night. I mean, West Monroe had no answer for their speed, especially to the perimeter. And then the Barb defense, I just loved watching their defense. They went from a 3-3 stack to a 5-man front. You could tell they had an unbelievable game plan that the kids just really executed well. You could tell they were getting calls in and they were adjusting. The kids were adjusting on the fly based on what West Monroe was bringing to the line of scrimmage. There's just their speed and athleticism that they played with on the Barb defense was really fun to watch. They tackled the heck out of Christian Ponte, and they did it by their linebackers was super downhill. They hit him before he could get going, and so it wasn't like the train with a ton of momentum like he usually is. He was getting hit at the line of scrimmage, and it was just, it was a really impressive showing, I thought, on both sides of the ball from Barb. I don't know how they're the 26th seed. We got to go back and look at this schedule. I'd love to know more about how they got here, but I was super impressed by Barb on offense and defense.
Well, when you look back earlier in the season, they played Lake Charles College Prep, and they were up, I believe it was 24-28 nothing, and Lake Charles College Prep came back and won that game. It ended up being a shootout. I think it ended up being in the 60s.
Yeah, Lake Charles College Prep scored 70.
Yeah, look, this is a Barb offense that has consistently answered the call. They've consistently put up points. When you looked at where they fell in the bracket, you thought Northwood maybe a good matchup for them. You thought it would be really tough for them to go on the road and beat West Monroe. Having accomplished that, it feels like the sky's the limit for this team. This is a huge win for them. But now you get to go play yet again on the road against Neville. Not the easiest path. However, we know if you can beat one of those 2 5A teams, you have the feeling you can beat any of them because they are so evenly matched. Even Ouachita Parish right now, who didn't beat any of the big four, if you will, still is in around later than West Monroe, who they lost to. So just to show the depth of that district and how talented it is, and yet still Barb's offense somehow find a way. And it's the name of the young man at quarterback, to answer your question, Lance, it's Jalandon Gray, who, look, I got to watch some clips of him, just unbelievable. I know he's got an offer to Nichols as well as a few other places, but he's a baller. He keeps plays alive with his feet, and it helps when you got a guy like Griffin in the backfield to hand it off to. Who's just such a dynamic athlete.
Yeah, I don't know that there is, playoff performances obviously get magnified, but we would be hard-pressed to find a 2-week stretch this year that someone has had a better 2-week stretch than what Jordan Griffin's done these last 2 weeks. It's been unbelievable, and that team just seems like they feed off of them. And, yes, this is going to be their 3rd straight trip to North Louisiana, and looking at the bracket, if they win next week, they're going to have to make a 4th straight trip to North Louisiana. But why not? They've got to feel their confidence has to be sky high. It's a fun team to watch. Like Lance said, they're fun to watch play. It looked like going back at their schedule, they had a 3-week stretch where they went Karen Crow, Southside Acadiana, lost those games back to back to back. Karen Crow game was a 21-point game. The other 2 were within a score. So, maybe just some tough luck, some tough breaks, and whatever they found the last 2 weeks, they're going to have to bottle it up and bring it with them up to Monroe to play Neville, because that's going to be another obviously extremely difficult task.
And look, this is a team to add on to that, guys. This is a team that you have to remember. Hurricane hit a few years back. They completely shut down football for the season. So this is a team that they're very easy to root for in the sense that they've had to, as a program, overcome a lot, and they had to kind of rebuild. I think they ended up trying to play a JV season that year, but they really didn't have enough guys, and they ended up not playing the rest of their varsity season. So for them to be where they are right now, it's really remarkable. And Cass, the last 3 weeks for Griffin, he had 12 touchdowns in 2 weeks. The last 2 weeks before this week, he's been unbelievable. Yeah,
it's crazy. And it takes performances like that if you're going to be a 26 seed to make a run, and that's what we got here. Before we move on from the Division I non-select bracket, anything y'all see that jumps off? I know Ruston beat Westgate pretty bad. Southside beats Terrebonne to move on. That sets up a Ruston Southside game in the quarterfinals for the 2nd straight year. Central beats East Ascension. They look like they might be ready to make another run to the Dome, and then Zachary beats Denham Springs.
I mean, yeah, look, central performance for Gassiot, the quarterback there. Again, look, that game is tighter than what the score showed.
Yeah.
Between Central and East Ascension, Gassiot went for 300 and went for 50 on the ground. 5 touchdown day for that young man. And we know he transferred over from Ash. And really, he kind of split time last year at quarterback, but really lit it up this past week against an East Ascension team that just has been very scrappy. Like, has just found a way to get the job done time and time again, whether it's on offense or defense. So that's a big win for a Central team that we've kind of had, conflicting reports on almost if you look at Central. Like, there's been weeks where you've expected them to kind of kick the doors down, and they had a tough week. They had a tough game against Catholic, but they find themselves at the right time of the season.
Moving on to the Division I select bracket, we have, there it is, St. Aug. Maybe we talked about the Hahnville Parkway game being one of the craziest of the nights. This one's right up there with it, with the momentum swings. Acadiana travels down to New Orleans. They lose to St. Aug. Sorry, I lost the score. There it is, 55-42. Acadiana jumps out to a 14-0 lead early. Vashon Coulon, quarterback for the St. Aug offense, he throws for 327 yards, 4 touchdowns. Miguel Whitley, 4 catches, 128 and 8 touchdowns. 8 touchdown. They had 32 first downs on the night to go with their 55 points. This Acadiana offense, they brought everything they had with them to New Orleans. They threw it all out there. Ty LaMartina, quarterback for Acadiana, threw a couple of big touchdown passes early. Travis Gallion, 5 catches on 181 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also ran a kickback for a touchdown. Acadiana gave St. Aug everything that they could handle. St. Aug, that offense just proved a little bit too much as they get the victory, 55-42.
This is the one I was most locked into. I was excited about it. I know we were all texting about it. The crazy part of this game, I thought, so this, like you said, Acadiana jumps out 14-0 immediately, so fast. And then they kick it off. St. Aug returns the kickoff for a touchdown. It's now 14-7. And with Acadiana up 14-7, all I could think was this game is going exactly the way St. Aug wanted it to go. Like, it was just huge plays, explosive plays, fast plays. You're talking 21 points on the board, but with like 8 minutes left still in the first quarter, And so in a weird way, down 14-7, it felt like St. Aug had them right where they wanted them, And so, but beyond that, I mean, I think at that point, St. Aug went on for like 28 unanswered points. I actually turned it off, went and checked out the West Monroe game, but the Wrecking Rams brought me back because I was checking the score, and they had made a game out of it again. And so shout out to those guys. Like you said, they kept fighting all the way deep into the second half. The Wrecking Rams actually had the ball in the fourth quarter, down by a touchdown and with a chance to go tie the football game. Didn't get it done. The biggest highlight of the day, Markel Whitley had a catch that was an NFL Justin Jefferson looking catch. It was a huge third down play. They threw a ball down the field. It had to be about a 30-plus yard gain. Ball was a little bit out of his range, but he went up, got it with his fingertips, rolled over like an NFL receiver, brought the ball to his chest. And it was just, it was an unbelievable play that pretty much iced the game. They went on and scored on that drive. That's an incomplete pass, and Acadiana is getting the ball back, And so, this game was exactly the slugfest that we kind of thought it would be. It was back and forth. But in the end, it ended up being too high scoring of a game, I think, for Acadiana, and just played a little bit more in the way that St. Aug wanted it to play out.
And the thing about this St. Aug team, though, is they have so many ways that they can attack you. They have so many guys that can go make plays for them. And, to Lance, your point, that was a Derek Bennett guy who we got to see kind of take over in that Holy Cross game, return that kickoff back. There was another receiver who was getting a ton of touches. I don't even know if we called his name in the Holy Cross game. So there's so many different weapons that they have. Their defense did enough to get the job done, but hats off to Acadiana. Guys, they came out and threw the football. How many times do you see Acadiana throw the football? And I think that does speak to what St. Aug's defense brings to the table. the fact that they did feel the need to change it up. But look, I mean, they executed it extremely well, kind of went against the grain, self-scouted, and it paid off. Unfortunately, late it didn't. But look, Khalil Lewis, running back for St. Aug, he had 114 yards and 2 touchdowns on the day. This offense, they have so many weapons on the outside, and you think, man, they're just going to sit here and pass the football. They can be multiple. They do like to run the football. We know that, we know they can do whatever they want, really, offensively. It's a matter of what's going to work in the moment. And Coach Valdez even said, like, we'll attack a team the way that we see fit. We play the hot hand, and clearly it paid off in this game for them.
Yeah,
Hey,
it did. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, so quick point, too. So Raekwon Williams he tore his ACL week 10. And so St. Aug is actually without one of the top weapons, and they're still putting up 55 points without – imagine being able to do that without your LSU junior receiver, And so, that was a huge, just point coming into the game, knowing that they were without a big weapon. But like Jason said, they still have so many weapons, even without Raekwon.
Yeah, and I think especially the next game we're going to talk about, this sets up the matchup that St. Aug is going to have. But that running game for St. Aug is going to have to, if they can continue to run the football, obviously with Kulan at quarterback, they can be able to throw it and put up points, but they could run the football and play some defense. They've got a chance. Jason, I've said it the first show we had of this year, I'm on the St. Aug bandwagon, and I'm not getting off. And that St. Aug bandwagon is going to get a lot of resistance next week as they will face Rummel. Rummel goes on the road to Tioga, and they win 45-21. We pointed to this matchup really when the brackets came out, then especially last week, that this may be a spot where Rummel can go and like their draw. And they did just that. They went and handled a hostile environment at Tioga, a game in which Rummel it wasn't very clean for Rummel. They did rush for over 300 yards. Their two backs, Jaden Terrence and Corian Hawkins, both went over 100 yards. Terrence scored 4 touchdowns. Hawkins with 1 touchdown. That brings both backs to over 1,000 yards on the season. And when you play defense like Rummel and you can run the football like Rummel can run the football, you can go on a road, not play your best, but give yourself a chance to go win by 3 scores on a road at a team in Tioga that they were, the biggest thing to happen to Tioga in a very long time. That's probably as close to being factual as you can get. But a huge win for Rummel, and that sets up a mega matchup with the St. Aug Purple Knights and the Rummel Raiders next week.
Lance?
Oh, go ahead. Let's stay in.
Oh, definitely. Lance here?
Yeah, I'm here.
You're good. Did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, as far as Rummel, I think that just goes to how battle-tested they are. These guys know how to win. Their defense has seen the best being down here in the Catholic League, and they can run the heck out of the football. I mean, they're going to be a tough matchup for anybody, of course, So, yeah, I mean, I think that was a matchup of a more battle-tested team in that Rummel football squad.
Yeah, and when you look at the previous matchup that they had, they opened the gate in the beginning of the game. It seemed like everything was going their way. They really held St. Aug defensively for a lot of the first half. It felt like St. Aug had to rely on special teams. They had to rely a lot on their defense to make some big plays. Rummel is arguably, I would say, has one of the top 5 defenses in the state. I really think a lot of this defense and what they're able to do, I think they held Carr the best anybody has in the state, which is saying a lot considering the teams that they played. But again, I think Rummel is always a consistent contender. They're always going to be sitting in these types of rounds later in the brackets. And to your point about Tioga, Cass, Tioga didn't even make the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
So for them to be sitting where they are now, unfortunately that their season had to end. But look, congrats to those guys for a heck of a season, for being able to even host a Catholic League team round 1. I mean, congrats to them. Just unfortunately, that defense for Rummel is no joke.
Yeah, and Rummel was shutting down St. Aug all the way up until the very last minute of the first half in that first matchup, if you remember. Rummel was up 3-0. Aug scored real late in the first half.
Yeah, this Rummel defense, man. That's it's going to be and we'll get into it on Tuesday, but a very, very interesting, exciting matchup when St. Aug and Rummel play next week. But yeah, no, hats off to Tioga. Great season. Just kind of got able to get the 6th seed in a bye, but it felt like kind of Rummel was a team that was on a mission, and the matchup just didn't favor Tioga in that sense. In that same area of the state, the Ash Trojans, the 5 seed, hosted the 12 seed Brother Martin Crusaders. Ash wins 38-27. Kason Williams, junior running back for Ash, 250 total yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 of them rushing. We talked all year long that this Ash team coming out of that district until week 10 when they lost to Neville kind of felt like they were just a little bit, maybe the most complete team in that district. They showed it here because it wasn't, yes, Kason Williams went off, but it wasn't big explosive plays offensively. It wasn't the cleanest game defensively, but they beat a really good Brother Martin team by 11 points. Easton Royal for Brother Martin, by the way, returns a punt for a touchdown and scores on a reception on the first play of the second quarter to give 2 explosive plays to the Crusaders. Ash didn't flinch. They just kept playing, just that championship pedigree, I think, is been indoctrinated into that program by Coach Bachman, and it showed on Friday night against Brother Martin.
Yeah, when I logged on to this one to watch some of this one, they were kicking. Ash was kicking off to Brother Martin, and the commentators at this point, Easton Roy had already had a couple big plays, and the commentators were actually saying, they said, man, if there was ever a moment where it was appropriate to just kick the ball out of bounds, I would support it. I would support it right here. Just kick it out of bounds. And so it felt like, Easton Roy did everything he could to keep this team in the game. But yeah, overall, I think this Ash team is they're one of the most well-rounded teams that you're going to find, from the quarterback position, the running back, to the defense. Their special team seems to be great, except for when Easton Roy's got the ball in his hands. But it is just a heck of a football team, I think, this Ash team. And they're going to be they'll be a fun matchup when we see them. I would think we'll see them against Carr at some point. It's going to be a fun matchup.
No doubt.
I mean, look, Ash just kind of felt like a team on a mission all year. They did have that Week 10 loss, which kind of felt a little bit out of place considering the season that they've had. They're a really good football team, defensively, offensively. They have so many weapons on offense as well. The way that I can consistently say it, but they get to the line, they're no nonsense. They run that turbo offense. It's very difficult to stop when they get into a rhythm. And look, they held Easton Royal as in check as needed to win this football game. And a lot of teams can't say that they were able to do that. And I've gotten to see him in person, on tape. Kid's a real deal, and there's no doubt about it. So Brother Martin drops this game. I don't think that was unexpected. But, again, I think this Ash team has as good of a chance as anybody to try to threaten Carr. But, guys, they got a big test next week. They got to go. They got to take on Catholic of Baton Rouge. And Catholic hasn't been a joke all year either, have the number 1 safety in the country in Bradford. That's going to be a really fun matchup that has the feel of a semifinal or final football game.
Yeah, no doubt. I don't want to look too far ahead on this episode, but man, next week looks extremely, extremely fun. Elsewhere in the Division I select bracket, we'll just kind of run down through some of these fairly quickly. But John Curtis, man, this score was shocking. Again, not because Curtis won. I thought Curtis would win the game. But they beat St. Thomas More 49-7. St. Thomas More has 3 turnovers in the game. Again, turnovers, defense wins. But they turned the ball over three times. Curtis goes up 21-0 in the first quarter, and it just kind of felt like there was a runaway train, and STM really couldn't do much about it. This Curtis team, they're going to move on now. They're going to play Turlings in the quarterfinals, but this Curtis team seems to be rounding into form. That bye week did them good. That bye week did this Curtis team good, and it looks like they're on a mission to make another run in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think the main takeaway is John Curtis plays their best football in November. We've seen this for a couple of years now. 2 years ago, they were a team that was 4-6, ended up in the semifinals.
Yeah.
Or was that? That might have even been last year.
That was last year.
It was last year.
Right.
Yeah.
So, they do. Obviously, they've been doing this for a long time. But this team, they seem to just get better and better throughout the season. Their quarterback, when you play with a sophomore quarterback, he continues to get better and better throughout the season. And so, yeah, that was they seem like a team that nobody wants to really see right now.
Yeah, and look, we got to watch them up close, Lance. They're so physical. They're defensively, they definitely have the talent. Their secondary has a lot of guys that can go make plays for them. One of the best linebackers in the Catholic League, and Jeffrey Curtis, running back situation, and Boudreaux, and just the amount of guys that they can put the ball to. Horton as well on the perimeter. They have tons of athletes on the field, and it's it's no surprise that we see them at this point, because they always seem to somehow look. Let's call it what it is, right? Like Division I select, you do need a little bit of luck. Like if you need a little bit of luck in that right part of the bracket, just because they're top to bottom, it is so dense. There are so many teams, and Curtis just kind of slipped into this bracket in the right spot, and now they get to go take on Turlings Catholic. And look, Turlings has been absolutely dominant. However, would you rather be playing St. Aug and Carr in this round, or would you rather be playing a team that was playing in Class 4A? That hasn't seen a team quite like you. Now, again, Turlings has been unbelievable. They've been blowing the doors off people all season. However, have they played a team that's as physical as this John Curtis team? I don't know. But I can confidently say I don't think they have. So it'll still be a great game to see next week.
Yeah, no. So that's on the bottom part of the bracket. Up at the top of the bracket, by the way, Carr won. Carr beats Jesuit 39-13. St. Paul's travels up to Evangel. Evangel beats them, so Evangel and Carr will play next week. Ash Brother Martin, like we said, the winner of that game was Ash. They will take on Catholic of Baton Rouge, who beat Captain Street. So that is the Division I select bracket.
St. Paul's gave Evangel a game too. They took the lead at one point. They had a pick six. They had 2 picks against Pop Houston early on. They put up a real fight. They represented North Shore well. That's a really good Evangel football team.
It is. And if that Evangel defense plays, if they can show that they could win games the way that they beat St. Paul's, I know they're going to have their hands full with Carr next week, but that's an impressive victory for Evangel, no doubt. And a great showing for St. Paul's, 100%. In the Division II non-select bracket, some of the better games of the night happened here. The best one, or at least maybe I don't know what to call it, an upset, surprising. Cecilia, the defending state champs, goes on the road and beats Lakeshore 54-42. Lakeshore had a 28-14 lead at the half. Cecilia fakes a punt, gets some momentum, and it's I don't know if Cecilia's feeling this, but from the outside looking in, this looks like it's 2024 again for Cecilia as they go on the road, beat Lakeshore 54-42. Tough break for Lakeshore as Coach Indes, Brody Loudermilk, that team had such a good regular season. They earn a bye, they win the district championship, and then you have to face the defending state champs who are masquerading as a 13 seed, and then your season ends in round 2 for Lakeshore. So good season for those guys, great program, big win for Cecilia.
I was getting some really good live updates from a Lakeshore cheer dad. Shout out to Jake Brigham. But in the end, the final scouting report was Lakeshore has some good football players. Cecilia has too many ballers. Was what it said. So, basically, the word. So first off, this Lakeshore team, they were leading a lot of this game.
Yeah.
Even at halftime, once they were up by maybe even 14 at halftime.
It was 28-14.
Yeah, and so they had a nice lead. The quarterback for Cecilia went out in the first half, did not come back. So I don't know exactly what that injury is, but did not come back. It felt like, through the updates, it felt like Lakeshore was going to win this football game. But they put somebody else at quarterback that apparently was even more of a baller, and Cecilia's offense just went off in the second half. And so, I'm told the secondary for Cecilia is unbelievable. They're long, they're fast, they're physical, and then it seems like they got multiple dudes they can get the ball to on offense and put up a lot of points, as they proved Friday night.
And the name you're looking for is Braylon Cowley. He's a 4-star receiver, unbelievably talented. In this game alone, he went for I got the totals right here. He ran for 193 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also passed 8 for 7, again, as a wide receiver stepping in. 8 for 7, 165, and 3 touchdowns. He did throw an interception, but clearly got the job done. He is extremely talented, and he was making plays in the Superdome a year ago as a sophomore. This guy's only a junior, so he's been giving teams nightmares. Frankie Frank, really talented defensive back, kind of plays both ways as well. Came up with an interception in the end zone to kind of ice the football game out. To Lance's point, they do just have some ballers on that team. And when you looked at potential upsets, you had to look at this game because they tested themselves early in the season. They took their lumps early. They found their way under a new coach, under a new quarterback. And again, they've been exceptional in this tail end of the season.
Yeah, and you got to think that what they were able to do last year is playing some part into what they're able to do this year. Like they don't care that they have to go on a road again. They know that they are really good. They know they have really good players. They know what it takes to win at this time of the year because they did it 365 days ago. This is a very scary 13 seed in Cecilia for sure. Moving down the bracket, Belle Chase and Opelousas. Belle Chase, the 3 seed, Opelousas, the 19 seed. Belle Chase gets an interception at the end, at the goal line to hang on and win 7-6. Belle Chase's defense in this game, 6 total takeaways, 4 interceptions. Cooper Fauché had 3 himself. They obviously get the interception at the end of the game to seal it. Amari Ambrose for Belle Chase, 25 carries, 187 yards. Scored the game's only touchdown for Belle Chase on a 75-yard touchdown run. This is, Belle Chase plays game. Like, you have to think that they were very comfortable in a game just like this. This is kind of exactly what they wanted to look like. The fact that they win a game 7-6 in the second round of playoffs, huge for that program.
Yeah, I texted one of the coaches after the game just saying congratulations, and his only response was, survive in advance.
That's it.
So that kind of tells you what it felt like to be in their shoes, And so, but I mean, this Belle Chase defensive unit is low-key maybe one of the most impressive units over just the past month of football. When you go back to, they shut out Shaw. They had a really good showing against St. Charles Catholic. Just had didn't get off to a great start against them. But this defensive unit's really good. They're really big up front. But, I mean, overall, this team can win multiple ways. We've seen them put up a lot of points with Amari Ambrose, too. So, it is a team that can win in a lot of ways. And so I think there's just a really good program victory for Coach Myers at Belle Chase.
Yeah, and Cooper Fauché caught 3 of those 4 interceptions for this Belle Chase Cardinal defense. Opelousas fumbled the ball in the end zone, and, that didn't help any. They missed the extra point. And we talk about special teams and how key it is. It's no more crucial at any point in the season than it is in the playoffs. And we saw that in Washita Parish's game against Destrehan. They returned a punt back for a touchdown, and Destrehan had to try to come back and go for 2 late. There's another game in here where somebody decided to go for 2 and didn't make it, and that ended up costing them the game because maybe some concerns on special teams. So, it goes to show, like, just find a way to win. Doesn't matter how you do it. Doesn't matter how pretty. Find a way to win. And that's what Belle Chase has been doing for the entirety of the season.
Yeah, no, when they pull up to the game next Friday, they're not going to ask them how they got here. Doesn't matter. They're there. That's the only thing that matters. And they win 7-6. They will face West Feliciana, a team who went on the road and beat Bruley 27-24. And then as we move down that bracket, the game we highlighted on Tuesday, which maybe was, we looked at as maybe being the game in a week, lived up to the billing. Lutcher travels up to Franklin Parish, wins 42-41. This Lutcher team kind of has the feeling of the Cecilia team, where they have the championship pedigree. They're a double-digit seed. They feel like they're way better than a 10 seed. Freshman quarterback Timmy Charles is starting to come into his own. There's playmakers all over the field. Defensively, I know the score doesn't dictate that, but this is an extremely talented Franklin Parish team. Defensively, Lutcher is good. They know how to win. Coach Jenkins has a program that knows how to win. What a ball game this was for Lutcher. 42-41 as they are now moving on to the quarterfinals.
I was lucky to jump right into this one and catch the overtime period of it. And it just, I think you kind of summed it up there, but it felt like I was watching a more confident Lutcher football team is what it felt. Like, I don't know, for some reason going into it from when Franklin had the ball to where Franklin doesn't get their conversion, giving the ball back to Lutcher with Lutcher having a chance to just go score and get an extra point and win the game. It just felt like Lutcher was very confident in the way they were going into that overtime period, and it was just had that energy to the game. Like it just felt like there was no doubt about it that Lutcher was going to find a way to win. Kind of like you said, I think it just goes back to the confidence that this coach instills into his football team.
Yeah, and Lutcher took advantage when they got the ball second. They held. They gave up a touchdown, obviously, Franklin Parrish, and Franklin Parrish went for 2, and they missed it. So that 2-point conversion play is so crucial, and Lutcher just kicks the game-winning PAT to make it 42-41. Look, this Lutcher team is no joke. I think they were young. They didn't have an offensive identity in the beginning of the year. I don't think even Coach Jenkins would be offended at me saying that. I think he openly admitted that in the podcast a few weeks, like last week. They were really trying to struggle. They were struggling. They were finding their way offensively. I think they found it. I mean, to put up 42 points against that defense, guys, that is a big, physical, nasty defensive line. But Lutcher's offensive line, man, they're a formidable unit as well. Not to mention you got Booth, Johnson on the perimeter, as well as Stark getting carries, as well as Jamilin Johnson in the backfield. And young quarterback as well. Like, they had talent, and there's nothing else you would expect from a Lutcher football team. But that's a huge win, and it can't be overstated. That's a massive win for them to go on the road and beat a really talented Franklin Parrish football team.
No, absolutely, huge win for them, especially coming off of last year, where, and I know there's a lot of new parts, especially on offense, but they lost to Cecilia in their first game last year, which was round 2 after the Lutcher had to bye as the 2 seed. They have now 2 playoff wins in the last 2 weeks, and they will move on to take on Iowa. Iowa remained undefeated. They beat Northwest 68-28, so Lutcher will travel to Iowa next week. In the top part of the bracket, North DeSoto does what they've done all year long. They beat DeRidder 56-13. I think, Lance, you've got the biggest takeaway from this game, which was
easily they win the entrance of the night. That was on Twitter. That was incredible. I want to go to a North DeSoto football game now because their entrance was unbelievable. The LED lights, the fireworks. I mean, it was New Year's Eve.
Yeah, that was awesome. Enter Sandman too. They play an Enter Sandman. It looked like a heck of an environment.
And look, Stonewall knows how to do football. That's for sure. And when you're talking the other side of the football, I mean, obviously they're going to have to go on and play Plaquemine. Guys, Plaquemine is a team we haven't talked a ton about, but they've only demolished everybody on their schedule not named Zachary. Again, the most points they gave up 52 points to Zachary. They have 29 points to Scotlandville. Other than that, they gave up 21 points to St. Michael's. Like, they 0, 20, 14, 12. Like, they don't give up much defensively. They score a lot of points. They have athleticism. So this is going to be a big test for this North DeSoto football team. I think that'll be a really fun one. Not a lot of people are talking about. Also, West Feliciana Bruley, that was an overtime game. So a big win for the Saints. First time in the quarterfinals since 2022. And that Bruley team I talked about, man, really, really fun football team to watch. Really athletic offense. Defense have been clamping people down, but congrats to the Saints for getting that win.
You forgot North DeSoto's got Franklinton next. Then
my fault.
Yeah.
I'm looking at 20 different places right now. I got my brain fried.
Don't forget Coach Dalton
Plaquemine, Cecilia. Plaquemine,
right.
Cecilia. That'll be a fun one.
Franklinton beat Jennings 40-14, which sets up a Franklinton North DeSoto quarterfinal game.
I think both of those matchups are unbelievable. North DeSoto, Franklinton. I mean, Franklinton, they're better than I think their seed has them. I think they dealt with some injuries and stuff. So I think
the whole bracket. Lutcher's got Iowa. Iowa is a team that's is undefeated, beating everybody. Javian Adams, again, running back for them, went for $175, 2 touchdowns. Like, again, this is a really good Yellow Jacket football team that has not been getting the attention due to their location on the map. Let's be honest. If they were in New Orleans, people would be talking about them nonstop. But because of their location, they're not getting the attention that maybe they deserve.
Yeah, this bracket is the quarterfinal games in this Division II non-select bracket are going to be very, very fun to watch next Friday night. Let's move on to the Division II select bracket, where St. Charles beat Northside 56-7. Edie White gets a big win over St. Michael's to set up the St. Charles Edie White quarterfinals. Madison Prep 42, John F. Kennedy 26. This was a very entertaining football game, back and forth football game. Two really talented teams. Madison Prep, a team that made it to the semifinals last year, they're able to kind of pull away a little bit late there from John F. Kennedy on Friday night. Big time game with a lot of talent on the field for these two teams.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like a broken record in some of these matchups, but it was turnovers and special teams, that really did JFK in. But, yeah, I mean, this was one of the ones that we circled as a matchup that, if there's a team out there that can maybe match up with the athletes of Madison Prep, it could be JFK. And early on, it did look like that. JFK was right there in this game. They actually had the lead early in this game for quite a while. But in the end, I think John F. Kennedy, they turned it over 3 times at a block kick or punt, I believe. And so that makes the difference when you're trying to take down a team like Madison Prep.
Yeah, Madison Prep is one of the most athletic teams in this bracket. And that's why when you look ahead next week, they're going to be playing U High. I think that'll be a rematch. Madison Prep didn't score a single point offensively against them, but look, they got some really talented guys on that offense. So I think they're going to have that in the back of their mind. Not easy to beat a team twice, but look, they found a way to get past JFK. Now you get a chance at your rematch. So game on. I'm excited to see that one.
No doubt. That is going to be a very, very fun matchup. U High beat Booker T. Washington 50-16 to set up the U High Madison Prep rematch, which is back at U High. They hosted them week 7 or week 8, and they making a trip that across town to U High once again. Lake Charles College Prep beats Leesville 42-23. Vanderbilt Catholic beats Carver 49-24 to set up a matchup with those two in the quarterfinals. And down at the bottom, Lance, you said the Shaw team could use a bye just to kind of work some kinks out, get back to kind of doing what they're, back to the basics, whatever you want to call it. They figured something out. They take down a feisty Haynes Academy team led by Coach Sprunk. They win 49-6.
I think you had a bye, you had a good matchup. Good confidence builder, right? I mean, it seemed like they needed just an opportunity to get on the field, put the pads back on, score some points. Coach Gigg's defense have a dominant performance, build a lot of confidence, kind of forget the regular season, rewrite the slate.
Yep.
Yeah, and look, I'm going to go ahead and look at that next game, though. I mean, look, you had Loyola Prep beating Bel Air pretty handily. Bel Air's a pretty athletic football team out of New Orleans. I mean, out of Baton Rouge area. So we know what that team has done all year. I think this is one of the most underrated matchups of the next round, getting to see this Loyola Prep team take on Shaw. I think this is going to be a fantastic football game. This is a Shaw defense. If remember, they forced 7 turnovers against an LCA team earlier in the year with 6 interceptions. And we know the Flyers like to throw the football. They like to air it out. Shocker with a name like Flyers. And Snoopy as your logo, right? But again, Bryce Restovich in this offense, they spread the ball out a ton. I think this Shaw defense versus this Loyola Prep offense really could be one of the most fun matchups of the week.
Yeah.
Hey, if Loyola Prep misses like an extra point or something, that'd be a little weird, right? Like they had a mishandle on like a hold or anything.
Like if they just pulled the ball out of their foot.
Something like that. That's what I'm saying. Could that be bad gree if that happens? How would that be perceived?
Well,
especially
I don't think
this week, because isn't it's Thanksgiving?
Oh yeah, it's true.
So
Hold on, Snoopy.
Something to look for. Something to look for. Maybe we should let Coach Gig know. Hey, if they do this, heads up. That's a good point.
Watch the fake.
Yeah.
Snoopy.
Where else could you get the insight that we provide right here?
If Snoopy, wait, can I just say this? If Snoopy is not their fake call, then what are we doing? Like, if their fake punt, fake field goal call is not Snoopy, then we need to get in touch with the Flyers, man. You got to fix that. Like, that's got to be one of your calls.
I agree. Before we move on from this bracket, I think it's just interesting, not surprising in the least bit, but when the brackets came out, we looked at this bracket and you can kind of predict that this one was going to be chalk until probably this round. And up to this point, the higher seed has won every game except for the Bel Air Patrick Taylor game, which, that 18-15, essentially that's, same seed, what you want to call it. But in the quarterfinals, you got the 1-8, the 5-4, the 3-6, the 2-7, kind of as we predicted. I think this is going to set up a very exciting quarterfinal round for Division II Select. Division III non-select. Up at the top, we'll start with Gina. Gina wins 48-14 over St. Helena. Mansfield and Marksville. 62-60, Mansfield gets the win over Marksville. That is a complete opposite game from the next one on this bracket, in which Union Parish traveled to Erath and won 14-9. Union Parish gained 125 yards of offense. They had 51 rushing yards. They only ran 26 plays. Erath ran 83 plays, and Union Parish wins the game 14-9.
Wait, can you run back that total number again? What was the total number of yards?
Union Parish had 125. Erath with 360.
Lance, 125 yards. 77 of those came from one play,
And
one pass.
play.
There one pass that they ran. It was for a touchdown. That's it.
The amount of plays, Erath ran 83. Union runs 26. Union wins the game 14. That's
program
I've never
win.
seen. Yeah, I've never seen it. And on the flip side of that, when talking about Erath, it kind of feels like this has happened to this Erath team before. They have a great regular season. They get a good seed. They just can't get over the hump in the playoffs. But God, I had to do a triple take when looking at that. Kinder beats Kaplan 40-27. St. James over Manny 53-13. Oak Grove shuts out Richwood 42-0. Laurelville wins over Church Point 42-39. And Sterlington puts up 71 points as they beat Donaldsonville 71-26.
Sterlington's good.
Yeah, I mean, outside of that Union Parish game, I mean, I think this was everything kind of went as expected, right? I mean, I think this bracket really gets interesting next week. So a lot of good teams here. Just I think they're ready. They'll be ready for next week.
Yeah, no, I think that's right.
Yeah, I think some interesting matchups though. But Sterlington, a team that looks like they're on a mission. This Laurelville Church Point game I heard was really back and forth. Blake Delcom, their quarterback, has really been a phenomenal runner. They love to run and pound the rock. I think that could be a really fun one. See them try to take on Sterlington. Also, guys, that 62-60 ball game, that was an overtime game as well. Terrell Puigas, a running back for the Wolverines of Mansfield, had a heck of a day. Lavallee, the quarterback from Marksville, went for, I want to say it was like 270, both in the air and on the ground. Really big day. But again, I think this is where it's very similar. Maybe it's very similar to Division II Select. This is kind of what we expected to see. Like, this is where we expected these teams to kind of roll out and where we expect them to be. So game on, right? Union Parish, Kinder, I think that'll be a fun one. Gina and Mansfield, like, they got some really good matchups. St. James taking on perennial powerhouse Oak Grove, like two really solid programs going at it. Some really fun ones looking down the pipe.
Yeah, no, for sure. It kind of seems to be the theme for both Division III brackets as well as the Division IV bracket. In the Division III Select bracket, we'll just go start all the way down at the bottom, which with maybe in this bracket at least the game of the night. And we talked about it going into the game that this could be a tight one. 18 seed De La Salle travels to Crowley to take on 2 seed Notre Dame of Crowley. Notre Dame wins 28-19. This game was back and forth all night long. De La Salle actually had a lead late in the third quarter. This Notre Dame team would just, too much for them down the stretch as they scored quickly to answer in the third quarter and then scored to put the game away in late in the fourth quarter. But a tremendous football game. De La Salle, as the 18 seed, I think was maybe a product of tough scheduling and some unfortunate breaks early in the year, which put them in this position. This is more than just your typical 2 seed win over an 18 seed. This is a very impressive victory for Notre Dame.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Notre Dame, you're really proud of this victory. It's a hard-earned playoff victory. If you're De La Salle, like you said, man, it's always tough to figure out. I think especially for the smaller schools, like De La Salle was really good in this game because they're battle tested. They've seen teams as good or better than Notre Dame all season, but they're also the 18 seed because they played a really tough schedule. They lost too many games, and now they're the 18 seed having to face Notre Dame. And so, I mean, there's no doubt this Notre Dame. I mean, it's a De La Salle team. They're talented enough to be a third round or even semifinal team, but unfortunately, they had to face Notre Dame right out the gates. And I mean, if you're Notre Dame, I mean, you're just you're happy to have the sun back up and you're still alive in the playoffs, because I mean, I know Coach Graham Jarrett and De La Salle, I'm sure they had a great game plan and they came obviously ready for Notre Dame.
Had to make that road trip too. I don't think that help matters either when you talk about the way that seeding can make an impact. Having to take that trip, you don't know how it's going to affect the team. And I thought De La Salle came out of the gates. They played really well. Notre Dame just kind of pulled away late in that one. But again, this Cavaliers team has to be proud of the way they came out and fought. It's unfortunate the way that it played out for them. However, Notre Dame is talk about a program, right? Like Notre Dame is one of those programs. Louis Cook's been there for forever. His teams haven't been below a 9 seed in the past, 15 or 20 years. So, I mean, it's a really tough to go on the road and win there. I've gotten to watch a game there. They play in Crowley Stadium. It's a little bit of a smaller environment, but man, you can feel it. Like the environment is electric there.
Yep, they love their football there, and they like you said, that is a program, a real program. They will take on Lafayette Renaissance Charter Academy next week, as Lafayette Renaissance Charter Academy got a big victory. Another one that is extremely impressive, 18-6 over a meet. Every other game in this bracket was decided by more than 20 points, which I think says a whole lot about what we're going to see next round. And I think this next round for this bracket is going to be very, very interesting and very competitive.
Is it all chalk? I think it is, right?
Well,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Except the 9 seed. Except the 9 seed. Catholic Iberia wins, which that's the same as the rest of these brackets as well. Both in Division 4, it's chalk except for the 9 seed was able to beat the 8 seed. So that's kind of how it all played out. In this Division 4 non-select, Haynesville and over Homer, which is a big game up there. Haynesville wins 36-19. Jonesboro High, the 9 seed, beats Benton, the 8 seed, 39-33. Logansport, big win over Welsh, 34-31. Jeanerette over Grand Lake, 54-7. South Platte, 6. West St. Mary's, nothing. That was a tremendous football game. South Platte, we could talk about it on Tuesday, but they're going to have their hands full next week with North Iberville, who won 36-26 over Elton. And then down at the bottom, East Feliciana 12, Faraday 8, Mangum, the Dragons, put up 48 points, and they defeat West St. John 48-12.
Yeah. Sorry, Lance.
No, I was saying, I mean, the ones I was really following close, South Platte, I've seen them play a few times over the last 2 years. Good program. They lost a lot of guys from last year. I don't think they're quite the same as they were last year, but they do still have Roderick Parker, really good quarterback that's been a starting quarterback since he was in 8th grade. So, obviously I don't think this was their best showing the other night, but hopefully those guys get back on track moving forward. And the other one I was really looking for was at East Feliciana, Ferry Day. That panned out to be a great game as I expected. I think both of those teams pose a pretty serious threat for Mangum.
Yeah, well, East Feliciana, man, Ryan Bugmore, dude, he's really a talented guy that goes both ways for that East Feliciana team. Mangum, outside their game against Ouachita Christian and outside their game against Gina, who is the number 1 seed in Division III non-select. I don't think they lost another game. Oak Grove and so look, this is a really good Dragons football team. I think when you look at the bracket, it's kind of where we thought. It's kind of what we expected. Haynesville's been pretty dominant. Jeanerette is a team that has suffered a lot of injuries throughout the year, but has been very talented. But I do think the crown jewel of this week is definitely going to be South Platte, North Iberville, like you guys said.
Yep, no, that's going to be a very good football game. We'll get to the Division IV Select here next, but it's just these smaller brackets or the smaller school brackets kind of feel like they go from 0 to 100 real quick. Like it's almost like get through the second round, but then when you get to the quarters, like you better be ready to roll. And there's some really good matchups here. We'll end here in Division IV Select, working from the top down to the bottom. Westminster Christian 48, Opelousas Catholic 35. That is a very good win for the 1 seed over a very good 16 seed in Opelousas Catholic. St. Edmund only puts up 44 points this week, but they beat Covenant Christian 44-36. Another really good win. Covenant Christian, believe, was playing with their backup quarterback in this game.
Yes, yeah, they were.
Not for the whole game, at least in some points, yes. That is a good win for St. Edmund. Again, I saw Covenant Christian, I think, in week 3 or 4. Very impressed with them. A big win for St. Edmunds and the Blue Jays. Ascension Catholic, Lance, this one's going to pay me to say, Ascension Catholic 62, St. Mary's 9.
I was getting live updates for a little while.
just enough to know what was going on.
Yep.
There you go. Catholic Point Capita, a 4 seed, beats Westminster Christian Lafayette 46-18. Hamilton Christian wins 27-14 over St. Fred's. Ascension Episcopal, this was impressive as well. The Blue Gators 17, the Kangaroos of Kentwood 14. Very good football game. Very happy for that Blue Gator program led by Coach DiMaggio. They will take on Hamilton Christian for a chance to go to the semifinals now. Ouachita Christian 38, Southern Lab 0. This one pops off the page. Again, not because Ouachita Christian won. You're able to shut out Southern Lab, who is an extremely talented football team. That says a whole lot about this Ouachita Christian team. Then down at the bottom, Riverside Academy 63, Delta Charter 6.
That was my biggest takeaway was Kentwood and Southern Lab. I mean,
yep.
I didn't see that coming. Shout out to the Christian and the Episcopal schools. I mean, it was really impressive. And then the other one, I mean, Hamilton Christian's got a lot of turmoil going on in their situation, and so for those guys to get a win over St. Frederick's, I think it says a lot about that locker room and those kids. And St. Frederick's they've had a good program for a while. They've won state championships, and so I mean for Hamilton Christian to continue rolling, I thought that was really impressive for those kids as well.
I'm glad you said that, Liam. I mean, Lance, that's up to those young men for being able to stay focused through everything going on. And but looking ahead, I can't help myself, right? I'm interested in some of these matchups, man. Westminster Christian and St. Edmund should be a fun one. Guys, I don't know if you knew this. St. Edmund, the reason their offense is so good, James Shiver, their head coach, he was actually an arena football coach. He was actually pegged to go coach the team in New Orleans at one point before. I can't remember when it was. That's why they're able to light up the scoreboard, them arena concepts, man.
Do they use
the same motions?
Do they go in motion?
I mean, clearly, whatever they transferring over is working, though. I mean, you can't be running forward, but it's clearly working.
Maybe they can.
But look, I really am excited to see this Ouachita Christian Riverside football game. Obviously, very familiar with the Riverside program. Grew up down the road, literally down the road. This program, same hometown. There's literally 3 red lights. So we're very well aware of what they've been able to do this season. Coach Lee Roussel has done a phenomenal job with that team. I think this game is going to be packed. It's going to be a raucous environment. I think this could be one of the biggest games of the week, maybe one of the best finishes of the week that we're going to see.
Absolutely. This is a game, and I feel like we've said this a few times, which is, I think, a positive. But if this game were to happen in 3 weeks, you could be like, okay, that's a state
Yeah.
championship game, Riverside and Watchdog Christian. So yeah, no, really, really good matchups in all the brackets, but especially here in these Division IV, both brackets, where it's a lot of chalk. So the matchups are starting to get really good the deeper we get into the playoffs. Well, that's the round 2, we get the top seeds coming to join the party. They get their feet wet. I don't think we saw too much of a hangover from teams with buys. I think the teams on the whole did a good job of handling those buys and coming out ready to play. Obviously, the shocker of the weekend being Barb over West Monroe. I think that's where that's got to be the biggest one. But this sets up, selfishly for me, my favorite week of football all year long is the third round. You play during Thanksgiving. There's no school. It's all football. It's one of the most special times in our state because I feel like in this round, and I know we have Barb there. There seems to be one or two teams that kind of pop up out of nowhere, but this round is for the teams with championship pedigree. And if you can win this round, then obviously you set yourself up to go play to go to the Superdome.
Yeah, I think when you talk about this week, and Kaz, I'm sure both of you guys, I'm sure you understand the significance of playing and practicing during Thanksgiving week. And that's when you do see those programs really emerge because the amount of discipline that it takes as a football program to keep your head on straight, know that you're off, great, but you still have work to do. That's why I think a lot of teams kind of get caught in that trap of that quarterfinal round, having the week off. So this is a huge week for teams to make sure that their heads are on straight. And that's why you do tend to see these programs kind of emerge from this week because they've been there. They know how to handle these situations. So will some of these teams that are not super familiar with being there be able to stay focused, stay composed, and continue working hard during this week?
It's always a great opportunity too for like the alma maters to get involved, the alumni to get involved. People are in town because of the holidays. Now their football teams playing, so it's such a great opportunity for the programs to grow in those ways as well. With that said, like you're alluding to, you got to keep your head on straight. You got to, those type of environments can't become a distraction either, but that is some of my favorite parts is watching, on social media this week. We're going to see where Franklinton has their alma mater, their alumni at Thanksgiving lunch with the team and stuff. And those type of moments I think are really cool that I'm always looking for.
Yeah, they are. And like when I was at STM, Thursday walkthrough was always held at, we practiced in the morning all week long, but Thursday walkthrough was like at 7 a.m. and it was breakfast with the families and anyone who played there. And there would be, legitimately, there'd be 400 people at practice. And if, it's something that you just do so you get used to it. But teams that haven't been at position, it's really easy to be distracted. But this is my hands down. I love this week of football. I can't wait for Friday night. We will look for. I say that I really can't wait for Tuesday night. We get to look forward to the games. But then Friday night will be fun as well. So you can catch us again on Tuesday night, 8:05. We will look forward to all of the quarterfinal matchups that are going to be happening in the Louisiana High School State Football Playoff. So it's going to be a very fun week of football. I cannot wait to watch. I cannot wait to break them all down. And hopefully you guys out there watching will do the same with us. For Lance and Jason, I am Cash. Y'all have a good week. We will see you again on Tuesday night to talk about the quarterfinal round in the Louisiana High School playoffs. See y'all then.